Hello everyone, it's Helen from Journaling Planet, and today I am going to make some button cards. To make these cards I'm going to use, this is an old Easter egg card that was sitting in my junk box, and it's got some sort of interesting rectangles on it that I think I can use for button cards, some of them quite small I think. But that's good because I'm hoping that this project will also help me use up my scraps. I'm supposed to be able to put a lid on this. It's only a little Tupperware box. Look at, it's only that size, and currently the lid does not go on it. So I'm hoping that this will help me use up my scraps a little bit. I've got some buttons and some thread at the ready to sew onto the card. I've got some ink stamps, which I'll go through, and I know that some people will ask me where I got the ink stamps, and the truth is that very often I cannot remember exactly what I typed in to get the ink stamps, or indeed where I purchased them. But I'll tell you, on the whole, my ink stamps are from either thrift stores, if I find them secondhand, or eBay. Ink stamp sets that I've got available at the moment. Sorry, it helps if I show you them the right way around. So there's this Parisian set. I think eBay for this one. I think if you type in things like Paris stamps, this one I think might have been from Shine, Shein. I just love the really vintage look. I don't even know if I'll use these ones because they're all bottles, which is a bit random. But for some reason I decided that I might want to stamp one of those at the top of the button card. I have no idea why I think that I want to do that. I'll just keep it handy just in case. Can never have too many stamps handy. This one I again think was probably eBay, but I'm wanting it for this vintage stamp here, this kind of label. And then I have these kind of old-fashioned, I don't know how to describe them really. They're just vintage stamps, and this one has a vintage label that actually says vintage label on it. So I'll probably use that at some point. This one, I got it for the ladies, the kind of Victorian ladies, which I might use. But with it came things like these scissors that might be quite useful. This measuring tape, because it's kind of a sewing theme. This thread. So, you know, I've got a few different options there when it comes to my ink stamps. Before I can do any of those things, and before I can sew any buttons onto these cards, I need to first, I think, cover them with some scraps. So I'm going to speed up this portion of the video, but this is just me picking out some interesting bits of scrap paper from my stash. Okay, for some reason I had a lot of trouble getting this brown paper on to stick down on the corner there, but on this one, I don't know why that is. There's no real reason why it should resist, but there you go. Sometimes when you're doing crafting you have these issues. Now obviously I could be very literal and stamp buttons across the top, and I do actually have, if I wanted to, and I may well do one just to see what that looks like, I do have a alphabet that I could use for that. And maybe I will do that across this one and just then stitch the buttons on. But here I would like to do something a little bit different, using like a vintage label or something interesting like that. And I might actually also do an image stamp an image on the main part underneath the buttons, even though the buttons will obscure the image a little bit. So, okay, I picked out a few stamps and I'm going to just start stamping away. All right, I don't think that's bad. I think it looks kind of cute. I haven't sewn the buttons on yet, so still that embellishment to come. And here comes the bit where I have to choose some buttons from my button stash. I'm going to start with this one, and what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to lay the buttons like where I want them, which corners I want them in. I'm going to get some thread and a needle, and I'm going to thread the needle. I'm always super paranoid about needles and making sure that they are definitely accounted for at the end of a project. So please, if you're going to attempt this at home, please do make sure that you do account for your needles at the end, because it's pretty scary when they're just nowhere to be, we don't know where they are. You know, this was a really straightforward little project, and I can just imagine this in a junk journal looking really, really cute. It didn't really require that much effort. The biggest effort was sewing the buttons on, and yes, making sure that my glue stick is working as it should, which at present it does not seem to be. I can do without it. There we go. Well, I think that's really cute. And I think that would make a really cute little piece of ephemera. It doesn't have to be in a sewing journal, could just be any kind of junk journal. I think that works really well. I'm going to come back to this bigger one. I'm going to sew on, I'm going to put them to the side of the card in order, and then I'm going to come and sew them all on. I do have quite a few that have 4 holes, so it may take me a little while, so I'm just going to come back when it's done. But I mean, out of, you know, Easter egg box and scraps, that's not bad going, is it? So pretty nice. Okay, let me try the other one and let's come back and see how that looks when it's done. Okay, this is where we're at, and I could be happier with the placing of this one, and it's a little bit loose, but other than that, I might just find a way of fixing that on the back there. But other than that, I think it looks really cute, and I'll probably just tie a little bit of thread around this to tighten it a little bit more. And all I need to do is go around and ink. I'm really pleased with how these 2 projects have come out, and I will just tighten a little bit on the back here. I also, with this one, I didn't rethread for each button, which I did for this one. I went down and then across and then down, and I think that is probably easier, albeit it looks messier on the back, but I am going to neaten this up. I am going to do some knotting. I'm going to tie some more thread around it. I'm going to get it where I want it to be, basically. It is a result of using this thread that bunches up on itself, so I don't think your project will look like this. And you're probably better at hand sewing than I am, let's be honest. So this is the reason why I use my machine most of the time. I might even just put some washi over it. Why not? People do tape the back of these things quite often, so I'm just going to do that. So there's always a fix if your sewing doesn't go to plan, as it didn't for me. You wouldn't know to look at it from the front. If I wanted to use the back, I think what I would do now is I would just take a little paintbrush and distress ink and just go go over this to make it less white. Nothing more complicated than that. I'm going to let it dry, so then it will have the brown on the back with a bit of washi tape, and it will have this on the front. I'm just really pleased with how it's come out. I'm just going to lay it that way so it can dry. All in all, a lovely project, and yes, I learned some lessons doing it for the first time on camera, but that's okay. And I'm really excited to put these into my junk journal. I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had a good time, and I'm going to go away and make some more of these and use up some more of my scraps. Enjoy, and I'll see you next time.